Right. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on the geographical location in this globe from which you are participating. I'd like to thank you all greatly, talking about amiable resource persons and exalted participants all over the globe. I'm Right Honorable Dr. Emimbra Agbeutu, one of the moderators. You are welcome to this highly exalted webinar of our time. This session will commence with each of our resource persons delivering a focused opening presentation, each lasting 20 minutes. These presentations are designed to provide in-depth insights into the central themes and questions underpinning our discussion. Following these initial presentations, we will move into our general discussion, addressing some of the most pressing issues. Segment will allow for a comprehensive exploration of the topics introduced, encouraging further engagement and the exchange of perspectives among participants. Permit me, Director, then to, on this occasion, welcome our resource persons in no particular order. His Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara is a lawyer, Commander the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's a Nigerian politician who served in the 13th National Assembly, precisely the House of Reps, as the Speaker from 2015 to 2019. Served Right Honorable Dogara Yakubu is a member he served Honorable Yakubu served in the House of Representatives representing Bogoro, Das, Tafawa, Balawa Federal Constituency of Bauchi State from 2007 to 2023. Dogara is a member of the Nigerian Bar Association, the International Bar Association, the Nigerian Institute of Management, the Chartered Institute of Mediators and Conciliators, the Cyber Bar Association, and the Social Policy Association. He was selected as Leadership Newspaper's Politician of the Year in 2015. In March 2016, he was honored by the Royal Commonwealth Society of Nigeria for passing 130 bills in one day. And on the 10th of June 2016, he was presented with the Zik Prize in Leadership Award for Public Service. He was also voted Political Icon of the Year 2016 by the editorial board of the Sun newspaper and named Politician of the Year by City People magazine at their 2017 award program. In October 2022, a Nigerian National Honor, Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, was conferred on Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara. The third resource person we have is no other person than Dr. Tanya attorney. An attorney is an accomplished Pan-Africanist, entrepreneur, and expert in governance, democracy, and political affairs. Dr. Tanya also has extensive experience in communication, public relations, investment, and business advisory. He has served at the forefront of international development over the past 20 years across the continent of Africa with duties at the African Union, the United Nations Regional Center for Peace and Disarmament in Africa, the Africa Peer Review Mechanism, the New Partnership for African Development, NEPAD, with support to key continental bodies such as the Pan-African Parliament, ECOWAS, and executive and founder of the Institute for Governance and Peace Building in Africa, an independent, non-partisan institution working to promote and strengthen good governance and peace in Africa. Dr. Tanya is an international elections observer of the African Union, having successfully covered several presidential and parliamentary elections in Africa. First resource person we have on the list is Honorable Hene Kwame. Honorable Hene Kwame is a politician, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. The member of parliament for the Ashanti Akim North constituency, Ghana. He won the parliamentary seat in the December 2024 general elections as an independent candidate in a constituency which has always been won by the New Patriotic Party. Honorable Ian Kwame, aka known as OK, serves on several parliamentary select committees, including road and transport. OK has affectionately called, as is affectionately called by his constituents, is dedicated to grassroots development. OK founded the own educational foundation and not-for-profit organization to provide scholarships to brilliant but needy students, especially girls with disabilities. Ohen is noted to have supported widows in and around his community in the last decade to date. Before contesting the parliamentary seat for the first time, Ohen was an entrepreneur who had several companies under his watch, companies ranging from food production to entertainment. Internationally, he has received awards like African Young Entrepreneur of the Year. He actively promotes interfaith harmony and job creation through partnerships, notably with the Turkish investors. The fifth resource person we have in the list is no other person, an amiable lady, Miss Briggs, who is born to an Ijaw father of Calabari extraction and a British mother. She is fiercely passionate and proud of her heritage. For nearly 3 decades, Ankyo has carved out a niche for herself as a fearless, steadfast, truth-telling, and God-fearing advocate of human, environmental, and political rights within the Niger Delta oil-rich region in Nigeria. Our determination to serve humanity on the right side of accountability truthfully, is known nationally and internationally. She quietly helps and orients with truth and facts. She deliberately made the choice to stay away from participating in what she identifies as the murky waters of Nigeria politics, but bluntly and fearlessly demands accountability from politicians, as she believes that politicians hold the nation they serve, truth and accountability. She believes politics is a service, and the electorate has the right to demand politicians serve with clean hands. She believes and defends a belief that everyone's ethnicity is their identity and not a measure of patriotism. Yakubu Briggs, human rights activist and social society leader, is also here with us. Talking about this webinar, in particular, the Quiv Foundation, which is also known as the Quiv Global, is headed by our amiable director in person of Emeka Inamani. The next thing we will experience during the seminar is an interactive session where our participants will ask questions, and these questions will be taken from the questions bank for our resource persons to deal with. On this occasion, permit me, as I invite our amiable director to take on from here. Once again, you are welcome to this seminar. I'm grateful for this opportunity.
Special webinar themed The Next Political Campaign, Curing the Trust Deficit. This program, as you have heard, is brought to you by Kiviv Foundation, also known as Kiviv Global. Kiviv Foundation is a global think tank, socioeconomic and multilateral organization. We currently operate in 52 countries and counting, but with physical presence in the United States, United Kingdom, South Africa, and Nigeria. We are committed to creating a better world for humanity, working across 7 central commission areas, that is politics and governance, regulatory frameworks, civil and public service, professional associations, strategic business operations, policy, and legal. Today, our focus is on politics and governance because mobilizing citizens for active participation in leadership, politics, and governance is one of the things we do at Kiviv Global Foundation. In recent times, a growing trust deficit has developed between the general public and politicians in many democracies. Europe is not left out, the Americas inclusive, but most especially in Africa. This phenomenon undermines the effectiveness of governance and weakens democratic institutions and fosters cynicism among citizens. Addressing and curing this trust deficit is essential for a healthy and functioning society. Today's webinar, the Next Political Campaign, Curing the Trust Deficit, seeks to explore strategies for building trust between citizens and politicians. So we are here to look at solutions. We at the QV Foundation, we are excited to see our esteemed resource persons who join us despite their tight and conflicting schedules. We are most grateful. Our resource persons today will be addressing several key topics, one of which are democracy as the only option, strategies to build confidence in the system, the place of communicating with results, not propaganda, manifesto-led versus citizen engagement-driven political agenda, which provides the answer that Africa seeks today. Then practical solutions to the current wave of voter apathies that we experience in the continent. I look forward to a great webinar today as we seek solutions. I sincerely appreciate our resource persons for coming. During our last webinar, which took place 2 days ago, we had participation from 22 countries. Today, I am happy to announce that we actually received intention to connect to this webinar from 27 countries. I urge the audience to sit tight and enjoy the ride. You can send your questions. To send your questions, kindly use the chat buttons on the website or on YouTube, where we are also streaming. You can also send an email to info@kivivglobal.org, and the panelists and our resource persons will take your question when we get to the interactive session. Once again, thank you for joining us. Thank you, our esteemed resource persons, for connecting. Let's get the ball rolling. Dr. Emibra, over to you. Okay, while Dr. Amibra sorts out this audio connection, it's my pleasure to welcome our first speaker, for today, Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara, CFRO. He will be speaking on the trust deficit in politics, causes and consequences. You're welcome, sir. Kindly unmute your mic and go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
Okay, great then. Yeah, thank you very much for the very kind and wonderful introduction. And permit me to say good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by commending the organizers for their vision in convening this conversation and for their wisdom in choosing such a profoundly relevant topic. I want us just to imagine for a moment a bridge, not just any bridge, but one that connects government and its institutions to the people. A bridge built on the pillars of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is the very promise of democracy itself. Now imagine that this bridge is crumbling. The foundations have been weakened by neglect, corruption, abuse, and broken promises. The people hesitate to cross, fearful and disillusioned. The picture of the trust deficit in politics. Across Africa, public confidence in political leaders and institutions has declined sharply over the past few decades. Surveys such as Afrobarometer reveal a growing skepticism towards presidents, parliaments, courts, and electoral bodies. Citizens are losing faith, not only in their governments, but increasingly, as we've seen, especially in Nigeria and other countries, in one another. This deficit is not merely a lack of confidence, it is a deep chasm of disenchantment that separates the people from those who govern them. It is the result of years of historical grievance, institutional failure, and kept promises that have I wanted. Sorry, I had a call that interrupted me. Teola Mokoko of the University of South Africa, reviewing Afrobarometer's 2021 survey, found trust in South Africa's democratic institutions at historic lows. Their conclusion was very chilling. Public trust, they say, in state and political institution has been eroded to the extent that a significant proportion of South Africans is now willing to accept an unelected government if it guarantees them security, service delivery, and prosperity. Here in Nigeria, I must say, I've had so many talk about benign dictatorship of benevolent dictatorship. Very worrisome, you may say. When citizens begin to prefer an undemocratic alternative, the very soul of democracy is at risk. Let us therefore examine the root causes of this trust deficit and the grave consequences it carries for our continent's future. So let's talk about causes of the trust deficit. I talked about endemic corruption and patronage. When public office becomes means for private enrichment, when funds meant for schools, hospitals, and roads are diverted for personal gain, trust dies. A convoy of luxury cars beside a dilapidated public school or public hospital sends a louder message than any speech can that the state has ceased to be a guardian of the public good and has become a private estate of the powerful. Now there is this failure of governance and service delivery. Too many citizens experience government as an abstraction, visible only during elections or tax collection. When people generate their own power, dig their own boreholes, and hire their own security, the social contract collapses. Why trust a state that is absent from your daily life is the question most people ask. We will talk about electoral fraud and subverted democracy. Elections meant to reflect the will of the people are often marred by vote buying, rigging, and violence. The story is the same all across Africa. When those who manipulate the ballot face no consequences whatsoever, the credibility of democracy and the processes is undermined. Then we'll talk about weak and politicized institutions. When justice becomes a commodity to be purchased by the rich and powerful, citizens conclude that there are two sets of laws, one for the connected and another for everyone. This breeds cynicism and the belief that integrity is a game only for the naive. Ethnic and religious marginalization, as we've seen across Africa, the weaponization of identity has poisoned our politics. When leaders are perceived as serving only their ethnic or religious base, national unity suffers. It tells citizens from other groups that this government is not for you and fractures the dream of shared destiny or nation building, which we are struggling to achieve here in Nigeria. Talk about misinformation and declining media credibility in the digital age, especially with the labeling of fake news. Lies travel faster than truth. When leaders double down on falsehoods, when public communication lacks transparency, we've seen it across Africa, suspicion festers. Policy inconsistency and unfulfilled promises is not the reason. Every broken promise deepens mistrust. When words become tools of manipulation rather than commitments of service, politics loses its moral authority. So let's proceed to talk about consequences of this trust deficit. Look at the causes. The erosion of trust, to me, is not a theoretical issue. It has real and devastating consequences. First rule, in my mind, as a politician, would be political apathy. Citizens withdraw from participation. Voter turnout declines. When people believe elections are predetermined, democracy becomes an empty ritual. Social unrest and insecurity. When the state cannot be trusted to protect its people, citizens take security into their own hands. Vigilante groups, militias, and extremists fill the void, fueling a cycle of violence. We have repeatedly, unfortunately, repeatedly seen this in Nigeria and other parts of Africa. Then we have economic stagnation. Investors, both local and foreign, shun uncertainty. Citizens evade taxes, believing their contributions will be squandered. The economy suffocates under the weight of mistrust. I've made this point repeatedly that we cannot lose the fight against violence and still keep our civilization. Talking about crisis management, during the pandemic, COVID-19, Distrust in government led to resistance against public health institutions across African countries. The same dynamic hampers our collective response to every national emergency when citizens distrust the government and its institutions. Then we'll talk about erosion of social fabric. The culture of suspicion turns neighbor against neighbor. The popular Nigerian phrase, we say it here very well, shine your eyes, reflects not alertness but anxiety, a survival instinct in a system perceived as hostile. Ultimately, the gravest consequence is a threat to national unity itself. Here in Nigeria, the system calls for restructuring and secession are not mere political statements. They are symptoms of a deeper problem and the cry of a people who no longer trust the center to hold. So, having said this, what will be the way forward? Can the bridge we talk about, the broken bridge, be rebuilt? It's all hope lost. I do not believe so. But rebuilding this bridge of trust requires courage, humility, and sustained effort. Leadership by example. We need leaders whose integrity is beyond reproach, leaders who live modestly, govern transparently, and deliver on their word. Leadership is not about grand promises, it is about consistent proof. Just one term of truly accountable governance can begin to restore faith. I say this with all sense of responsibility. Strengthening institutions, not individuals. Independent judiciaries, professional civil service, impartial electoral bodies, and a people-centered police force are non-negotiable foundations for trust. We've seen how trust in these institutions across African countries have nosedived. Youth inclusion. Our youth must be given not just hope, but opportunity. Employment, entrepreneurship, skills development must become national imperatives. This generation must see governance as a partnership, not a spectator sport. Generally, engaging citizens, particularly youth and women, as partners in reform builds long-term resilience. Bridging the ethnic and religious divide. We must promote competence over identity, merit over tribe, inclusion over exclusion. Our diversity must be our strength, but only when unity gives its meaning. Unity does not mean uniformity. Of course, we cannot agree and subscribe to everything at the same time, but we must unite behind things that are core, values that we hold dear. We need to talk about empowering civil society and independent media. Accountability flourishes where voices are free. A vibrant media and active civil society are the conscience of democracy. And we must not joke with that if we must rebuild trust. Then we talk about regional cooperation and peer accountability. African nations must hold each other to higher standards. Our collective credibility depends on it. So where you have peer reviews, peer pressure, for instance, it may deepen trust, create accountability as the nations or countries compete among themselves to see which one is better governed. Then we must wage genuine war against corruption. Corruption must not just be a political weapon, but it has to be a national crusade across African countries. Anti-corruption agencies must secure convictions, not headlines. Because here in Nigeria, we're familiar with sensational headlines relating to arrests of some prominent individuals. But as soon as they are arrested and the story is told, it's as if the cases died there. That must stop if we hope to build trust in our institution and government. Conclusion. The trust deficit in politics is now a continental issue, as I've highlighted it earlier. The unseen virus infecting every institution, every promise, every dream. It is the root of our insecurity, our stagnation, and our divisions across Africa. It was built by corruption, by failure, and by impunity. But it can be dismantled by integrity, by transparency, and by courage. Rebuilding trust requires new materials, integrity, accountability, and empathy, which most African leaders unfortunately lack since they have stayed for far too long in power. It requires new engineers, leaders of conscience and citizens of conviction. It requires a new blueprint on unshakable commitment to justice and the rule of law. The task is arduous, yes, but not impossible. If we dare to act with sincerity, to govern with humility, and to lead with compassion, then perhaps, just perhaps, the bridge can stand again. Let us choose to trust once more, not out of blind faith, but out of shared purpose and proven action. For it is only on the firm foundation of trust that the Africa we desire and we deserve can truly be built. Thank you for granting me this opportunity, and I wish us a very productive session. Thank you, and God bless you all. Hello?
Dr. Mibra, are you on? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for those salient
You're
points.
welcome.
You said leadership is about accountable governance. We must strengthen institutions, not individuals. And we are not hopeless. And I think that is very critical to state that we are not hopeless. We have to be intentional. We have to be intentional and be responsive to change the situation that we find ourselves. Thank you so much, sir. We'll be coming back to you during the interactive section. We will now switch over to Dr. Tanya Atani. She will be talking on strategies for building trust between citizens and politicians, the place of transparency and accountability. Dr. Tanya, can we have you on? Dr. Tanya, the floor is yours. Can you unmute your mic?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. May I please request for one additional minute? I just want to make sure that I've been traveling, that my phone does not stop while I'm speaking. Just 1 minute.
We are okay. We're with you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, esteemed resource persons. Thank you, Honorable Yakubu. Thank you for your thoughts that you share with us. Okay, I'm very happy that we have this opportunity to communicate and especially to speak about transparency and good governance in Africa and beyond. I will say that as one of the strategies that I've highlighted in promoting rebuilding the trust and in promoting transparency and good governance, I said let us start by communication. Let us start communicating. I think one of the reasons why the trust or the mistrust has deepened is because there has been a big gap between the governed and the governors. Mostly, we've noticed that communication only happens during campaign, and people mostly complain that after the campaign time, they don't see their leaders anymore. So I will say we need to really promote a way of speaking back, and especially establishing who am I as a governor. People need to know, not only promising and making promises, and after once I'm in power, no matter how busy I am, I need to know that I'm here to serve the people. I need to make time to go back to the people and tell them that this is how much. But the first thing is people must know who their leaders are. People must know who their leaders are right from the go. Most of the time, people wonder, is it the person I voted for? This person looks totally different. We don't have access. There's no communication. When we ask for meetings, the person is no more available. And the next time we meet our leader, it's during the next campaign. So mostly this really brings issues. The other thing which my predecessor also mentioned is we need to constantly remind the people that governance is not a business. Leading our people, our nation is not a business. We have seen many instances where we see someone who has been struggling, and the moment he's voted, luxury cars start coming up from everywhere, and the person changes addresses, and the person has an astronomical amount in their bank accounts and all that, and people start wondering what is happening here. What is the new business that this person has launched? Have we become the business? So I think one of the most important thing is for people to know what you represent, declaring even what you have. If they are properties, if they are, some constitutions make it very clear. It is so important for you to declare what you have before being in office and what you have after leaving office. Okay, so these also would promote transparency for the people to know who you were, who you have, and that young people will not be rushing to go into politics because that's the new avenue to make money. So most people, we've seen a lot of voters, voters, reduction in voters, voters not being keen to vote because they are like, listen, we know that they are just coming to loot and our lives will never change. So in promoting, one, let us know who we are voting for. Two, let's make sure that what does our legal framework say about our leaders declaring their assets, declaring who they are before they become our governors. The other thing is constant promotion of communication, especially during the leadership term, not only during campaign, but going back to the people and telling them, you have voted for me, this is what I've done so far. Exchanging, constantly trying to speak about your manifesto. How far have we been? I've been in office for 100 months, for 100 days, sorry. This is how we've done in 100 days, promoting. Unfortunately, this is not always in most, encouraged in most countries. And sometimes when the media wants to ask, or civil society groups wants to ask for accountability, they are shut, they are shut up. So we need the constant communication. The other issue that I've highlighted here is that strategy that I've highlighted is, what does our constitution say about about democracy, good governance, and all that? Mostly we are very keen at accusing the person that is in leadership, but we need to constantly know that we also have the responsibility to hold them accountable, even as individuals, not only leadership, civil society groups, journalists, but even us. We need to look closer to what does our constitution, what are the legal framework, what are the legal provisions in our constitutions. Yesterday we had a debate, and I was saying that you will be shocked, through elections observation, we have been closer to many constitutions where that most of our constitutions are outdated. So even if you want to hold a leader accountable, you want to take legal actions, you'll be shocked to see that the most constitutions do not allow provision for such. I will even recommend that we may need to have more constitutional lawyers these days, because yes, we have a lot of human rights lawyers, we have a lot of corporate lawyers, but we mostly have neglected our constitutions. Most constitutions have been dated, long ago, and when they get to be changed, you could see that leaders change them only to their advantages, to get more terms in power and all that. Meanwhile, we can have groups that can push for the change of some terms in our constitution to promote more democracy and good governance, in order for us to be able to hold our leaders accountable. So you will see that most of our laws do not have provision for such. So I want to advocate for us to have a closer. Do you know what does your constitution say? Does your constitution say that most leaders before coming should declare their assets? If the legal framework does not oblige him to do so, then he will not do so. Meaning that we can't complain. The other things, what are the systems and the guidelines that help to curb corruption in our system? Does the legal framework have guidelines that stop? I will even give an example. Currently, most countries are digitalizing their payments, but we still have many countries that are still, that have to come up in that regard. So, we mustn't even tempt those in office as well. What are the legal frameworks in tendering, in issuing tenders in our countries? What does the law say? If the law say you can give tenders to your friend, to your sister, to your best friend, people will do so. So we need to also check what are the loopholes of the system. Because it's good that to complain all the time, but we can do something about it. This is what I like, what Honorable Yakubu said. We should be able to do something and hold leaders accountable. And we start from the legal framework. As a politician, if the legal framework allows you to have businesses to own half of the country, so what do we do? What do we do? So it means we have to look into this and make sure that the law does not allow it.
And that we don't tempt, if people can be receiving cash for payment and we don't even know where those cash go digitally, probably we could trace it. So we need to have a look at the legal framework. It is so important. Okay. And then so I'm going to really, and then, the legal framework also is the one great means that will help us even in electing the best one of the strategies is, if you elect a democratic leader, if you elect an effective leader, it means that you are not this is going to be very helpful in governance. It means this person who is going to govern the country very well. So elections are key. But if our framework does not allow us to elect the best leaders, it means that no matter the effort, we could all come and vote, but there are going to be issues. I'll give you an example. In some countries, this is also one of the issues we were discussing at a conference I'm attending currently. In some countries, the law allows I'm not going to mention the countries, the law allows the traditional leader of that community to allow anybody to vote without, if they don't have an ID. The moment that community leader can recognize this person, it means that this person can vote. But in some countries, this is not possible. You either come with your ID or your passport, or it's not possible if you're not in the list. You're not on the voters list. So there are many things that, due to the constitution, creates a loophole in us having credible elections. So I've thought of many strategies. Let's communicate, let the people know who you are. Let us have freedom of speech. Let us be accountable. But I would like to highlight over and over and over again, let's have a close look at our legal frameworks. The other strategy that I've highlighted, I hope I'm still within my time, because there's so much that I would like to say, is to ratify in our protocols and instruments that are for the promotion of good governance and transparency in the country. This is also one of the tools that we can use to hold our countries accountable. You will be shocked that most of our countries have not rectified most of the protocols. Most of the AU protocols for, the Charter for Democracy and Good Governance, we still have countries that are still yet to ratify them. So if the country is not party to it, you will not be able to hold them accountable. The African peer review mechanism, which is an instrument that of the African Union, an initiative and one of the organs of the African Union, responsible for holding. Are we aware of the work that they do? They mostly go to most African countries and look into what the countries are doing in the areas of governance, and they mostly issue reports. Of course, apart from reports, we would have want us to do more, but it's also notable what they're doing is commendable. But if we don't know the work, have we been able to look at our such report for our countries in order to participate as well? So I'm going to say we need to be participative as well. One, we need to make sure and push that our countries have ratified most of the protocols on good governance and transparency. Number two, we need to be involved. It is not just for politicians. It is not just the responsibility of the civil society groups and journalists. It is our responsibility. There was a call that came through. We have to make sure that we are participative as well, because we are the first. I remember Honorable Yakubu mentioned excessive taxation. Laws. If there are laws that do not promote our peace, there are laws that do not promote our good corporate governance, we need to be able to do something about it. We need to be able to speak. I know that this is not, it's not in every country that we have the freedom for such speeches, but we now also have social media. You can also pull pressure through the social media groups. Even if you can't do it directly in your country, you can even create blogs where you're able to speak up. We need to keep speaking the things that we are not about, the things that we're not happy about. We need to keep constantly engaged. So I'm going to be concluding soon. We have also highlighted in most countries during consultations with civil society groups, stakeholders in countries. One key strategy that we have also noted, which I would like to share, is to reinstate civic education in our nations so that we know our responsibilities as a citizen as well. You know, sorry. I grew up in a country that had civic education as curriculum. To know who I am as a citizen, what is my role, what are my responsibility towards my country and everything. It's so important. But we have noted while working with many African countries of late that civic education has been taken off the curriculum. So civil society groups have mentioned that they've been trying to engage people, to speak to people, even voter education, your civic education and all that. But in most countries that we've been working with currently, most people have recommended that civic education should be back so that it's taught in schools for people to know what is my responsibility. And to know that for governance and transparency to work, it starts from me. It starts from me. It does not start from the government. It does not start from other stakeholders, but it starts from me. So reinstation of civic education, promotion of discussions like this platform of several, groups and regulatory units to discuss, how governance is going in my country. What can I say about good governance in my country? What are the practices? And what does the framework say? Okay. And I say we keep speaking. I'm happy that we are speaking today, but it must not stop. We need to keep speaking. Sorry, engaging the civil society groups, engaging leaders, engaging ourselves as citizens, and speak freely. Are these laws okay for us? If it's not, and they don't promote transparency and good governance, we would like them to change. We would like them to change. And I'm telling you, these days pressure could be made everywhere. You can make pressure through social media. You could make pressure through, the several laws in the country, the court in the country. There is room to make pressure. Don't just sit and just allow things to just keep happening, or we just complain just without doing anything about it. So it is and for us to take accountability on and push, we need to know what the provision is so that we don't get ourselves into trouble. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. And I think during the questions and answers, we could have many other things to speak about, but thank you so much for the opportunity to share these points today, and I am very grateful to be part of this platform and share this notes. Thank you.
Great. That was lovely. We are grateful for that submission. Next is our exalted, amiable resource person, Ms. Ankyo Briggs. Briggs will be talking to us about the strategies for building trust between citizens and politicians, the place of transparency and accountability. Over to you, Briggs.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to this webinar, and also to the two colleagues that have spoken before me. Thank you very much for your contribution. Now, I am going to speak on building trust between the citizens. That is, we, the electorate, the people, and our place and the place of the people that govern in communicating with the people. Now, before I go into it, I believe that there is always a need when a topic is there to first of all clear what it is that the topic means. In governance, governance is about the people, meaning the voter, the individuals, and we are the voters. We elect the politicians or the handful of people who impose themselves on us, depending on the country and depending on the situation. Sadly, in Nigeria, particularly where I can speak authoritatively because of the fact that I'm a Nigerian, the fact that I have experience in how elections are conducted because I am part of the voters. For me, the conclusion has always been that we allow the bad and the wrong people to govern us. Now, whether that is what we actually intend to do or want to do, it's open to debate. But from my experience, most of the time, it is not what we intend to do. We don't intend to have the worst of us govern the best of us. We don't intend to have a handful of people amongst, as we're told, over 200 and over 200 and something million people that are in Nigeria. Out of that, the people that are eligible to vote are far more than the people that are not eligible to vote. Now, trust. Trust is a firm belief we have in a person, or in this case, in politics, that we have in a group of people that govern a country, in this case, our country, Nigeria. And when we're talking about governance in Nigeria, we're talking about federal government, federal governance. We're talking about state governance. We're talking about lawmakers, senators, representatives, state assembly members, local government chairmen, because we're supposed to have elected them and given them our powers to represent us politically. And that representation is not to be a representation for themselves, by themselves, disregarding the fact that we are the people that are being governed, and that we are supposedly the people that have placed our trust in them, and ask them to make decisions on our behalf. Therefore, the foundation of good governance, in my experience, looking at other countries and having been exposed to other countries and how they do things as well, is primarily you have to trust anybody that that you're dealing with. And for you to trust somebody, transparency, accountability have to come into that acceptance by yourself, that you trust the person that is dealing with you. In Nigeria, the people lost trust, and the people lost the belief that they are supposed to place on the people that are to govern them. I believe I concluded around 2003. That was after the first election that brought Obasanjo as the president. By the time the second tenure evolved and came in 2003, the issue of corruption, the issue of rigging elections, the issue of buying votes have already begun. And so by that time and moving forward into 2007, violence have already set into the system of elections, and how results and how we come about, or how politicians come about elections. Now, I want to place a level of ownership, a level of accountability on the people that emerge, on the electorate ourselves. Because over the years, we have accepted that these are how things are done. And so that then takes us across Africa, where we know that a lot of what goes on in Nigeria, we can accept that some of those things may be not as blatantly and as recklessly as it is done in Nigeria, but definitely in Africa. And that this has got to do a lot with what we have decided to accept. The level of poverty that our people have to live with goes to how politicians govern the country. The citizens have to be able to realize that it is our responsibility to call politicians to order. Now, you will be able to call politicians to order when you don't owe them anything, rather that they owe you something. And what they owe you is that you demand the level of governance, the type of governance that you need and you want for your country to move forward, to develop, for your country to be secured. Now, if you sell that right, whether with a bag of rice or a quarter bag of rice, or with T-shirts and face caps, and the way that the politicians play our ethnicity and religion when it comes to elections, we allow this to happen. So we must, as a people and as electorates, begin to take responsibility for our future and the type of people that we allow to govern us. The electorate laws in Nigeria are clear as to if somebody is not serving properly in government, what you can do if they're not representing you properly, how you can remove them. But I'm yet to see, in the past, since 1999, I'm actually yet to see any person that has been removed from office by the due process of what the electoral law or the constitution allows, which is to say that you can recall a representative, you can recall even a governor. I would think you should be able to say that if a governor is not governing right, that you should be able to remove them. Now, the issue right now in Nigeria that is happening with this present government is we're seeing a situation where governors, House of Representatives, senators, state assembly members are disregarding the, if you like, if we actually voted for them and they said that we did, so we did. If we voted for them, then I don't see how a governor can wake up one morning and decide without consultation with the people that he supposedly went to campaign for the position with, that he can just get up and cross over to another political party. And so even though a country is meant to be a country of 2 or 3 political parties, in Nigeria, for instance, we're beginning to see, even before the next election is due, that by the end of this year, 2025, which is like a year and a half before the next election in 2027, we are going to become a country that is a one-party state, not because the voters have said that this is what they want, but sadly, because the people that they have voted for, or who claims that we have voted for them, have decided that they are going to move to another political party, where we have a political party that is going to take over the whole of the country. That begins to create problems, political problems, problems of governance for our people, and therefore the failure of that government. Now, how do we then take over the rights that we have given to the people? Do we just keep quiet and allow the governors? I mean, the other day I heard a governor say something like, a governor that went from one political party to another, talking to his cabinet members in his state and saying that if you don't wear a particular cap, I will walk you out of the council. It is unbelievable that this is what a country like Nigeria, that is called the giant of Africa, but I kind of like take out the G and the I, and that's where my country is as far as I'm concerned. You cannot say that you're the giant of a continent when you are not behaving like the giant of that continent. Nigeria as a country, whether politically, developmentally, in terms of doing what is right, in terms of accountability, they have definitely, Nigeria have failed the continent of Africa. So when we're beginning to expand our discussion into Africa, I'm afraid that I have to accept that there are smaller countries today in Africa that have taken the mantle of leadership and the mantle of speaking for Africa from Nigeria. The smaller countries, the Sahel countries, in my opinion, are now showing the way to African countries of what should be truly the independence of the African continent is now very clear that the independence was just an independence of, we are independent of the people that colonized Africa. We are not independent of their wrong ways of doing things and the ways that they governed us by infusing corruption and actually making the African continent the source of developing their own continent or their own area of the world with the raw materials that is in Africa. There is a lot that African politicians, starting with Nigeria, I want to restrict myself so much to Nigeria, because without Nigeria actually showing Africa that they are the big brother or the bigger country in the continent of Africa, we really have no right to impose Nigeria on any other country. Now, going again back to the people, the electorate. The electorate has a lot of responsibilities. Because we have let go of so much of our responsibility by selling our votes, by accepting that whatever the politicians say, it's okay, and we just roll over to the next 4 years and we start the same process all over again, but this time it is worse. We're cutting away ballot boxes. We're running away with them. Violence rules the day when it is when we have elections, and people rightly are afraid to come out and to vote. And so that now takes us to some of the points that we would raise later or discuss later. Voter apathy. Now, looking at my experience in my state, recently there was a local government election. I won't go into the wrongs of it and the unacceptability of it, but the voter apathy in the local government election in my state and in other states in Nigeria in the past few months, it was just unbelievable. People did not come out to vote. It's just the reality. And yet, elections were called, results were called, and it is accepted that those results are the results, even though people didn't come out to vote. Now, that definitely is what will happen. It has happened in the past, so it will happen in the future. I do not believe that we're going to have free and fair election in Nigeria in 2027. I don't see how we can have it when the competition is just one party. So we might as well all just either vote for the one party or just sit down at home. And it's more likely that I will join the people that will sit down at home and not vote and not even monitor the elections. I used to monitor elections, but when you monitor elections and the results of the elections that you're monitoring every 4 years is the same results. Oh, there was rigging, there was violence, there was cutting away of ballot boxes, but elections did not hold, and yet elections were called. Now, propaganda. People, we are tired. The electorate should be tired of the insults that politicians give to us, or the intelligence of the public is being abused by politicians. But I lay the blame on the people. Nobody wants to die. I'm not calling on anybody to go and die, because that's the end result of maybe civil society people end up going to jail, end up being arrested, or people get killed just because they want to exercise their civic right to vote. The other aspect of good governance is the aspect of credibility, not just of the politicians, but the people that they even appoint to monitor elections. You are going to be in an election, and you are the one who is going to appoint the person that is going to call that election. Corruption of even the EFCC, before they can even point to anybody and say this person is corrupt, the EFCC system itself has to be above board. It has to come to equity of elections of Nigeria, of people that will govern Nigeria with clean hands. And so you cannot now say somebody is corrupt when you yourself is in that system of corruption, and somehow you are part of the system. So a lot needs to be done by the people, like the citizens, who really are at the end of what's going on that is so wrong in Nigeria when it comes to governance, and when it comes to politics. So I round up by saying that, as unacceptable as the issue of governance is in Nigeria, and to a large extension to Africa as a continent, if the people of Africa are not prepared, if the people of Nigeria are not prepared to take their destiny in their hands and confront this unacceptable governance system that we have accepted, I don't think that anything is going to change. So at the end of the day, we the people must now take responsibility, and it is possible to take responsibility because the politicians are not up to 1 million, and we are supposed to be 200 and something plus million people. Thank you very much.
Wow. That was spot on. Thank you so much. If the people are not prepared to confront the situation, there will be no change. And I actually love what you said. Interestingly, the politicians are not up to 1 million. And then you have 220 million people unable to, take their destiny in their own hands. It's quite instructive. I'm not sure if, so we'll come back to you as we go into the interactive section version, but Honorable Frimpong from Accra, Ghana was with us. Is he still with us? His network is fluctuating. If he's not with us, I will just, is he with us? Honorable, can you hear us? I believe we still have Mr. Speaker with us. So we can, Mr. Speaker, are you still with us? Excellent. Mr. Speaker, I can see you. You are still with us. Hello, sir. Can you hear me? Mr. Speaker, can you confirm you can hear me? Can you unmute your mic, sir? Take some questions while we await for Honorable Frimpong to sort out his technical issues. I just want to be sure that, Mr. Speaker, we can see you, sir, but we can't hear you. Okay, so maybe I will take it back to Uncle Briggs.
All right. What do you?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, is there any case studies? Is there any, where can we find lights in this dark tunnel? Is there any trust building initiative, successful initiative that we can hang on to? Because we need hope. Without hope, Madam Briggs,
I can hear you.
If
that's anything. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I did.
So please, can you?
I can hear you now.
Can you find hope?
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. I'll get back to you.
I did.
Let's Madam Briggs' response. Yeah.
Yes, I did get your question. Really and truly, with my experience of nearly 30 years of being on ground back here at home in Nigeria, I am convinced without any output from anywhere, or input rather from anywhere else, but by my experience of what is going on in Nigeria, that unless and until the people, the electorate, actually say this is enough, we're not putting up with this anymore. Now, the reaction of people when that is said, and I do appreciate it and understand it, because I understand and know the risk, unfortunately, the sad risk that comes with standing your ground in things like this, especially when it comes to politics and politicians who seem to believe that all powers is in their hands and they can do whatever they like and get away with it. There is always that concern of personal safety, and I also have concern for my personal safety. But you see, when one of two people can truly worry about that aspect. But when a whole nation, a whole group of people, the majority of the people, if you look all over the world, from America to back to Europe, you can see that people are rising and saying, no, we're not putting up with this, because you see, technology is our friend. Technology is the friend of people who are willing to resist lies, who are willing to resist corruption, who are willing to stand up and demand for accountability. Because everything that is happening in the world today is right in the palm of your hand, in your living room, in your kitchen. If you have a television, a radio, a telephone, you know what is happening in the White House. You know what Trump is saying. You know what's happening in Gaza. You know what's happening in Russia. So bearing this in mind, we can no longer say in Nigeria, for instance, and in Africa, that we don't know. We can no longer say in Africa that we don't know that we have a government, for instance, in Nigeria, that exports the crude oil that belongs to a certain part in Nigeria, export the whole raw material out at a very minimal rate of dollars. And then you bring the finished product in, and we have like 3 or 4 refineries. If you count Dangote's refinery in Lagos, we're talking about 5. And then you are now bringing in refined products for Nigerians who are living on poverty wages to buy. And then we cannot find a good enough reason to resist. Today, we have people in government, allegedly, people in government who are part of the process of buying up the oil, the onshore oil that the Shell and Mobil and all these people, the assets of drilling oil. The Nigerians in government, it is alleged, are part of the process that are buying up these things. And you ask yourself, what about the people on whose land these things are found? We're told that in Zamfara, we have the largest, maybe the largest deposit of gold in some parts, more than some parts in Africa. Is alleged. I don't know, but this is the information. Now, if that be the case, I want to know why Nigeria is not exploiting the raw material of gold and selling it as an asset of Nigeria outside and bringing the money back. Or why are we not putting a price on it? The Western world comes into Africa and put a price on the raw material that we own. And then you look at a country like Burkina Faso and the Sahel countries, what they are now getting up to do with people that they believe have exploited them, and the changes that they are making. So what I'm saying is that we can change our future, we can change our fortunes, and we must take that responsibility. We can't blame anybody else for what is happening in Nigeria. We have to blame Nigerians. And the first people to blame is the people who vote for these people. We are the first port of call. We have to resist them. We have to reject them. If we don't reject them, nothing is going to change. That's my position.
Wow. 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 Hearing you speak, and because you're on the field, you are outside, you engage with the people. I can hear the voice of the people. Almost like, for lack of a better words, the frustration out there on the field, because over time, uh, the people have been disappointed with the way their commonwealth has been managed, controlled, diverted, and all of these have accumulated in the trust deficit that we see today. The trust deficit is so deep that it takes intention. We have to be intentional to truly change it, and that is why we are very concerned with what is happening in African countries. We just heard of what happened in Madagascar and what have you, just because of this debt, this trust deficit. The people are resorting to other means to prove a point. But democracy should be the only option. And I want to go back to Mr. Speaker, sir. What strategies can we put in place to build trust? And Madam Briggs has said the people have to rise. What must they do? What are in your opinion, the step-to-step, strategies there that we can take to begin? Let's just even begin, and then we can take it forward. If you can hear me, sir. Hello, am I being heard?
I can hear you.
I can
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know if Mr. Speaker got my question, sir. Can you unmute your mic, sir? Can you unmute your mic? Dr. Tanya, are you there? I heard your
Yes,
voice.
I am here.
Well, can you start? Can you, before we connect, we can get
Okay.
Right Honorable's mic sorted.
So,
Go
Queen,
ahead.
we need to start taking stock of what we are not happy with. And now start also, I like what Madam Briggs said. Alone, you could be an isolated voice, but as a group, as a nation, everybody cannot be thrown into, just like what happened in Madagascar recently. It was a whole country revolution. So, first of all, start voicing what you're not happy with, start taking account of what you're not happy with, and secondly, start identifying yourself with other groups who are of the same view. And then from there, then we can now start holding people in government accountable. So for me, let us start not just thinking about it, but let us start voicing what we're not happy with, and then see who else it's in the same conditions. Now it's very easy with social media. I would say we've got a lot of advantages and tools that that we can use.
And then from there, you will be surprised that you will see that there are so many people that are of the same view as you. And then, yeah, by the time you realize there's a whole nation speaking the same languages as you. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, sir, can you hear us now? Oh, wow. Am I being heard? But I heard Dr. Tanya loud and clear. Dr. Mabry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Mr. Speaker, sir, can you hear us? He can't. Okay, so we will come back to him. So I will get the technical team to sort it out. But I will really want Mr. Speaker to take that question. But Dr. Mabry, can we go over curing voters' apathy? Can we go over curing voters' apathy? What's your opinion? What do you think?
Right. First, thank you for this opportunity. I would want to, in a way, align myself with what Madam Ankyo Briggs talked about. However, I really will have to be quick in making an addendum, maybe a kind of change, as I should say it, that talking from my personal experience as one who won elections a number of times in Nigeria, having served as an elected vice chairman of my local government area, and at some point getting the opportunity to serve in the National Assembly before I later served in a local election management body. I saw clearly that the problem really is much more on the judiciary. Because come to think of it, yes, you can speak, but where your voice, your opinion, this is talking about the average citizenry, the masses, as we call them in Nigeria, where something is wrong, when they are not satisfied with those that are representing them, and they now want to make a voice for their voice or interest to count, to a large extent, it has to come by the judiciary, through the judiciary. The judicial system is such that it has become very, very unreliable, very, very unreliable. I mean, when, for example, everybody knows that the electoral management body haven't met up its own standard as specified in the Electoral Act, and someone is offended, someone has been changed in that process, and that person gets to court. You don't get the right, you don't get anything from there. What is copious and known by the citizenry, you don't get it. In the first place, naturally, if someone has done something wrong and you are protesting about that, it ought to have been the duty of that person to defend himself. But the law we have in the country is such that whatever the election management body says and pronounces is assumed to be right. So the victim, and in this case, clear instances where the election management body has collaborated in inflicting that harm, that loss on that person that has gone to court, has the evidences that he will use to prove in court. Oftentimes, efforts to obtain those evidences that you want from the electoral body is far too costly and even in many cases not attainable. You can't even obtain those documents. And then a situation where if you will have to go to somewhere to voice out that what is happening is wrong, and in this case you approach the media. The media, in my view, to some extent, is also expensive. It's expensive. The worst that comes out of all this is nobody cares. Unfortunately, they have even got a slogan. Any bit of thing you do, even at very close private meetings, you'll find your opponent tell you, if you don't like it, go to court. Ridiculing you and your view that will change society substantially in a positive manner. For me, the voice of the masses, if not backed up by the judiciary, will mean nothing to government. And in that case, government will have a field day unchecked. When I say government, I hope I'm understood. Those in government, our chief executives in government, go home unchecked. That's on one part. Within the three arms of government, you see situations where the chief executives, and I'm talking about Nigeria specifically speaking, chief executives are often found engaged in reckless activities. I'm great that Mr. Speaker is here. Parliament has authority to check what chief executive does. But every attempt made by Parliament to do that oversight duty that they have, which will correct a lot of wrong on the side of executive. If you dare move any inch, the next thing you see is impeachments. The legislative arm, by the powers that are with the executive, and this time talking about power to enforce the law, power about control of money. Executive, which ordinarily has the will of the people, which in my view is the most weighty power, is often put in a difficult position to exercise that power of checking the excesses of the executive arm of government. This, to a large extent, comes out to mean that your voice is put on some level of check. You are not able to either say it, or that if you say it, it won't matter, it won't count. So you dare not even say it. Because in some instances, when you say it, you are ridiculed even by your colleagues. Because as you say it, it will turn out to be a money or influence making avenue for even your colleagues. You'll be ridiculed. The greater part of it is the constituents, the electorates that you represent, doesn't see anything good in you until you come back home offering financial assistance to them before you are regarded as someone who is performing. And for me, that makes a whole lot of things bad down the line. To bring up trust in this system actually requires enlightenment on the part of the electorate and some sort of effort that the judiciary should be put to. This is talking about transparency and all that. I mean, as someone who has taken a number of cases to court and lost, for me, I have experienced situations, and I now dare say that a lot of the times, the judges don't even read your cases. Don't even read your cases. Where, for example, an electoral act has undergone amendment, I will now have to see a couple of other things right. When judges make their pronouncements, you could clearly see that their pronouncements are based on the old law, because it's either that they are not aware or they have blatantly refused to abide by their own judgments even. So in all this, I am safe because I believe I'm talking from a position of clear experience that our judiciary need to be made truly, truly independent and taken completely away from the control of the executive arm of government, and be made to undergo training. So they really have that level of expertise and guts to make pronouncements about election cases that are filed in court. That's my take in what you have asked. Thank you once again for this opportunity.
Before we take some of the questions we're getting online and then have our panelists address most of bring all of this together, I want to say something, from my perspective. Any nation or society where the judiciary and the media have abandoned their independence or chosen sides is inevitably heading towards chaos and disorder. It is imperative that the judiciary must remain impartial, serving as a neutral arbiter in upholding justice. Similarly, the media must maintain its apolitical stance, reporting events and issues objectively and without bias. Regrettably, in the current landscape is far from this ideal. Many media outlets are subjected to various form of control. Some are influenced by those in power, others by opposition groups, and the further segment is driven purely by financial interests. In such an environment, the dominant narrative is often determined by whosoever is willing and able to pay the most, resulting in a system where the highest bidder shapes public discourse. Consequently, if deeply fractured information space, even with social media where we see things happening here and there, the public is routinely exposed to conflicting accounts of some event, of same event or issues. When it's brought up to national discourse in nations, you will start seeing conflicting accounts with versions that receive, with versions received depending largely on the interest or allegiances of the source. This reality leads to widespread confusion and undermines public trust, threatening the very fabric of our society. So media organizations have a responsibility to report fairly, accurately, avoiding sensationalism and providing balanced perspective. And this where civil society groups, they are doing a lot, but we need them to even come in the more, to act as intermediaries, facilitating constructive dialogue and holding both the politicians, the media, everyone accountable, including the people, as all our speakers have presented here today. So there's a lot that can happen. So I say it again, any nation that the judiciary and the media have taken side, that nation is heading downhill. The judiciary must be independent. The media, as difficult as it is, we see it everywhere in the globe, must be independent. I'm not sure if Mr. Speaker can hear us now. Is he back? Okay, I think he's trying to reset his device. Madam Briggs, you had mentioned, and strayed most of the challenges that have led to voters' apathy. Can you give us some hope? I'm looking for hope.
Can I give? What? I mean, when the people who today we know, and more or less, I think I'm probably amongst those that you can say have voters' apathy, not out of ignorance, but out of frustration, in the sense that we're supposed to just have one man, one vote. That one man, one vote can become two or three, depending on perhaps if you're able to, for instance, if I'm able to speak to five other persons and I say, I think we should vote for, or this is the reason why I want to vote for this candidate, and the person then agrees with you and keys into it, then you have been able to convince five extra voters. But voters' apathy will remain as long as the core issue of why there is voters' apathy is not addressed, or is not removed or taken care of. And what are those reasons? Those reasons are simply this: that you see glaringly, you see, I have monitored elections, and I have seen and watched in that monitoring, where I have seen what people have voted for, in the sense that at the very first counting, you can watch them either change it around. You're actually seeing the so-called electoral officers, even the police getting involved. And the police are the people who are supposed to be neutral in an election. The police is actually there to make sure that my right and the other person's right to vote against my own preferred candidate are both protected.
Right.
So that when the police themselves are there to carry out the plan of one person, and money is exchanging hands. I mean, I see no reason why we are told that, oh, in elections, you have to give money to customs. This is open. I mean, I'm just saying that you have to give money to everybody, that you have to mobilize them for everybody that is going to be present there. That is, if the police are there, you have to make provisions for them. If the Navy is there, if it is in riverine area, you have to make provisions for them. Why do you have to make provisions for them? So that is the beginning of the corruption that comes along with the voting process, that then makes it possible for someone who had 10 votes to, in your very presence, his 10 votes now becomes 567. How is that acceptable? But we do accept it, and that's why I keep taking it back to we the people. Okay, we cited Madagascar today. Well, why did this happen in Madagascar while Nigeria and OAU or whatever, African Union or whatever, is condemning Madagascar? Why did it happen? Madagascar people rose up because there is no water and there is no light. I believe that that was the complaints that they were making. And then the president was saying he will be able to resolve that in 1 year. No. So the people have said, no, it's not good enough for us. And they've come out on the street. So now, if I, as the president of Nigeria, I now condemn the Madagascar people for rising up for what is right for them, what right do I have as a Nigerian president to condemn Madagascar? Look at what is happening in America. America is literally becoming an authoritarian country right before our eyes. We Americans have a president that has openly said that he is sending the CIA into another man's country because he
Venezuela.
believes
Yeah.
that drugs are coming in from that country. Fine, it may be coming in from that country. But now, by the rule of law, that does not give you the right to invade another country. How does that give you the right? You stop them at your border from coming in. You don't go and shoot them and kill them. But that's right now, that's the type of world that we're living in. And it's horrifying. So if the Western world is now doing that, it empowers and encourages African leaders to do even worse than what is happening. So really, for me, the hope then is hopeless because I'm not really, unless we the people take our destiny into our own hands, there is no hope. And if we accept that we cannot provide hope for ourselves, I alone can only provide hope for me. I can't provide it for somebody else. So if we're not collectively going to change Nigeria, then Nigeria cannot change. As an activist, as somebody who stands up for justice and equity, I can only do that much that I can do. If others are not prepared to do it, then where is the hope? So the hope lies in all of us. All of us must provide the hope for all of us.
All of us must provide the hope for all of us. Dr. Tanya, with your experience in the AU, I mean, where do regional bodies and global bodies come in? Look at the example of the suggestion from the president of a nation, interfering with a sovereign nation. Where is the United Nations? You know, the same thing in Africa. Are they just congregated to, take tea together, eat biscuits? What are they doing to give citizens confidence to take the bull by the horn? What are they doing to give citizens? Because sometimes most nations, the youth are scared. They don't want to die. They are concerned that there's some statement they make, they'll be picked up by secret police, or something may go wrong. So they are scared. Apart from those that take it to the extreme, and we are not advocate for anyone to take it to the extreme, but what can regional bodies and global bodies do to bring confidence to the system, and also act as deterrents to those that think they can just flex their muscles and thwart the will of the people?
Thank you so much for your question. I I think the regional bodies and the intercontinental bodies like the African Union are doing their best. But there's one thing we need to note. I think the changes will need to start from our countries and extend it regionally and continentally. The regional bodies are the secretariat of the countries. This is one thing we need to understand. The secretariat of the African Union, for example, is the secretariat of the head of states. Um, it's the assembly, is the secretariat of the assembly, meaning that the decisions are still taken by our leaders. The regional bodies are just there to support the decisions that the leaders take. But it doesn't mean that we cannot send our advocates for decisions that we send to the AU to be able to take on behalf of countries. It's also a bit tricky because countries are mostly autonomous. How can I say? They are sovereign countries. So the regional bodies can only advise, but they cannot enforce decisions in many countries. countries have come together and said that, you know, in the 90s, Africa witnessed a lot of coups. So the AU and the UN and many other regional bodies came to say no to coup d'etats where power is seized unconstitutionally. So now, this is why, but we are now witnessing in the 2000 from 2020 new coup d'etats. As Madam Briggs have said, people are becoming tired, and when people are tired, they've been taking powers into their own hands due to people do not believe in elections anymore, and people do not believe that their government is going to take into account their pleas. And if they are not happy, just like we gave the example of Madagascar, it happened in Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, coup d'etats came back. So I'm not saying that regional bodies can't do much. They can, but we have to send information to them and tell them that we would like you to do A, B, C, D for us. These are the decisions that we are not happy with. So the consciousness will still start from our countries, and we can extend it regionally. But there's also one thing I want to say about voters' apathy. I would like us to also be aware that the vote, it's not only elections, is not only on election day. We think a lot can only be done on election day. When I don't get there, if I don't vote, no, we need to be so conscious of the pre-electoral period. How our electoral officers appointed? Are they independently appointed? I'm sure, Chair, you mentioned that as well. Number two, how is a voter register constituted? We spoke about the legal framework and all that. We need to be involved in that. And then the voters, and after that, after the the aftermath of elections, what happened? We've seen a lot of chaos also where can't people vote, and then for the results to come out, it takes forever. Things are manipulated during that whole time. So we need to really be involved, not only about what happens on election day, but throughout. And then the pressure, coming back to the regional bodies, we need to put pressure on our leaders, because the decisions of the AU and the ECOWAS are taken by our leaders. It is not the secretariat of the AU that takes the decisions. This is one thing that many don't understand. Those who vote the decisions are the AU. The highest assembly of the African Union is the Assembly of Head of State. They make the decisions for the African Union on behalf of the countries. So we need to push pressure on our leaders so that when they meet their peers, they should take the right decisions that will affect not only our countries, but the continent and our regions as a whole. I'm not too sure if I've been able to answer the question
Absolutely.
adequately. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. 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 Well, I have been told that we are 20 minutes past our scheduled time. I would just want to ask parting shots from our distinguished resource persons. Unfortunately, we are unable to get Mr. Speaker back online. Honorable Frippon has been online, but the same technical issue that Madam Briggs was having earlier is what he's having. We're unable to switch him on. I will start with Dr. Emibra. A parting shot. I'll go to Madam Briggs, and then I will wrap up. Okay, Alan, the speaker is still trying to connect, so once we can give us a parting shot. Honorable Emibra, can you just give us a parting shot? Go back to Madam Briggs. We can hear you. Okay, we can hear you now. We can hear you loud and clear. Yes, you are live.
Yes, we are back. I lost contact completely, and then at some point the video completely went off.
So sorry, sir. I was trying to get your remarks and opinion on democracy is the only option. Just quick strategies on how to build back confidence in the system, sir.
Well, I guess I've spoken to that in my brief presentation, and I've had my co-panelists speak to issues that border on trust as well. And before doing that, I want to specifically address an issue our sister raised, Ms. Briggs, as to the fact that if Kia is not taken, she might not participate in the next electoral process. But I want to say that the solution will not be giving up. As a matter of fact, all I have known about democracy is what you demand and what you don't demand. And the truth is that if we let it go that way because we are outrage fatigue and we surrender to fatalism, it means that the entire space will be taken over by the people you earlier described in your speech as the very worst of us. So the solution will not be yielding the ground, but participating. And by participating, you might think, oh, they are not hearing you, nobody's listening to you. But the truth is that even if they will not listen to you, it's not an excuse to give up. You might be inspiring people, generations, who might inspire generations that you will never meet. So I want to encourage her to not to give up, not to throw in the towel, but to continue, because some will be inspired, even if she thinks that victory is still far long. And Dr. Tu has spoken to the issue that is at the heart of the matter. She talked about staying engaged. And she talked about the fact that the whole thing begins with me. Everything is about the citizens. And we have seen how young people have mobilized themselves in Nigeria in the course of the not too young to run bill. And at some point, because I was head of one of the chambers in the National Assembly, it wasn't anything members wanted to do. And if you recall very well, even the Senate did not even reduce even a day on the constitutional age requirement. But because they mobilized, they pushed for it, they didn't give anybody any sleeping night. At the end of the day, they got something from it. And that's the foundation for future work on that. So for me, I think it is more about what the citizens demand than what anybody in government is willing to do. And the truth is that if you succeed in anything, especially in breaking the laws, you are empowered to even become more reckless. So as it is, someone spoke about the place of the court. We have seen it clearly. As a matter of fact, some of us who are lawyers, there are certain times, you're taken by the press, and you reasonably, with reasonable contemplation, you don't even know what to say. Apparently, there was a time some funny judgments were delivered, and at the meeting of the body of benches, the press sought my opinion about it, and the only way I could hide from it was to say that, well, you can see that I belong to this body of eminent body of lawyers, and that means that I'm an insider. So if I have any disagreement or any discontent, I should be able to channel it in-house rather than say it openly. And then one of my elder brothers who was there, a retired judge of a superior court, just called on me and said, oh, my brother, I'm very, very proud of you. I said, oh, because I refused to answer the question? And he said to me, no. Let me tell you one simple fact, that if your mother is a prostitute, they must never hear it from your mouth. So, hello? Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Yes, so you can see how bad the situation is. Yeah. So to even say that you have faith in one particular institution of democracy in Nigeria right now to deliver, I think it will amount to misplacement of priority. But the point is that the citizens can change this narrative if they can push. Like we've given so many examples about how citizens organize themselves and then something gave in. And if you look at it, the whole history of democracy has been a fight between the included and the excluded. In the US, at some point, women couldn't own right, didn't have right to own property. They couldn't vote. Hello? Can you hear me?
You are being heard, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. You are being
So
heard.
at some point in the US, until the women now rallied, the women movement of those days now made those changes possible. So we have to position our citizens through engagements such as this one that we're doing, the civil space, civil society organizations, young people, student organizations, if they can live up to the true promises of their youth, to demand that certain things must give way. And if we remain true to it, we can push until something happens. But if we were to say, oh, we want EFCC, for instance, to be more this in the terms of prosecution of corrupt persons, and then we just sit down and make the demands, nothing is going to make change, because some of the problems are actually institutionalized. They are institutional. Whether it is the war against corruption, when you are dealing with the fruits, you are not applying the solutions to the roots, the real causes of the corruption. Then you know that by the time you pluck these fruits, even if you do it effectively, within the next season, some other fruits will appear. So I sincerely believe that there's a lot the citizens can do in this country if we organize ourselves and demand for these changes that we think are impossible. It will happen. It has happened in some other countries. Look at what's happening there. So it means that there's so much interference.
We can hear you, sir.
Yes. So it really means that there's a lot we can achieve if we are able to rally people around and demand for certain changes. But on the part of the government, in order to rebuild trust, I see that we have to stick to electoral promises. When these promises are made, whether we are elected, as Ms. Briggs will say, or we superimpose ourselves on the people. We must be mindful of the covenants we establish before getting into those positions and try to do it. That will improve trust. You understand? Then
Yes, sir.
Creating opportunities for young people who are totally disengaged from the system. And especially in some parts of northern Nigeria, where young people have gone to school, to the university, they're back home, they don't even have jobs. No hope of ever being employed somewhere. So they're just seated there at home. And then the younger ones are now saying, what's the benefit of going to school when the elderly ones have gone there and they've come back? Perhaps we're even doing better than them. So it serves as disincentive. So, but if we can create opportunities around our democracy to deliver on the promises of democracy that I talked about earlier on, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is not enough to be alive. It is not enough to have liberty, freedom, but that freedom must be exercised in pursuit of happiness. And if you look at it, how many Nigerians are engaged in the pursuit of happiness? So many workers are out there. Their salaries cannot take them home. They work full time and then they're paid part-time wages. And so there's a lot that is left. There's a lot of ground that is left to be covered. And I sincerely believe that it is not as much as what the government wants to do, or some of us who are in position of government, than what the citizens themselves actually demand. So that is why the words of Doctor is very, very important, that we have to see this change as beginning with us, pushing for what we want, creating the space, networking, talking to the authorities, demanding, and never stopping until something gives way. So that's my perspective on that.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Excellent. We will take that also as your parting shot. That is spot on. I will now move over to Madam Briggs. Your parting shot, ma'am.
Okay. Definitely, right from the beginning of this discussion, I have maintained, not just today, but all along, that until we the people, and it is about we the people, until we the people demand to make these changes to happen, these changes will not happen. And I don't give up on positions that I have taken when it comes to our collective issues, what is in the best interest of the people of Nigeria. But I think that when I say that I don't see it is very clearly obvious to me, at least from my state, what happened, as I said, at the local government area, that people have this apathy, not because they are giving up, but because I mean it's a way of making a point to say that if you are going to if you are going to appoint the electoral officers, say, i.e., the INEC chairman, who is going to be in charge of determining whether you actually won the election or not. If you also is building a house for judges in 2025, and some of these judges are going to be in a position to determine the when the slogan comes to court, go to court, go to court. Then you go to court. And then at the end of the day, and we have seen it happen, I don't need to cite any example at all. My brother knows it very well, that a man who came forth in an election, when he goes to court and when he went to court, was actually declared the winner of that election in a state. And so that is the point I am trying to make, to say that as a human being, and as an intelligent human being, and as somebody who has respect for the rights of other people and for the right thing to be done, I believe that I would not go out and vote simply because let it not be seen that I'm not giving up. But the point is, I also will respect myself to the extent that if the politicians refuse to respect that it is the people that are voting for them, then they've already concluded on some of these elections are written even before the elections. We all know these things. These elections, they are thumb printed. We all know these things. Children, we have seen children in queues voting with voters card with their pictures on it. And when we see those things and we still continue as leaders and as intelligent people and as elders and people who are showing others how things should be done and the way the position they should take, I think that we have to draw the line somewhere. And taking a position actually comes with at what point, at which position do you draw the line? Where do we draw the line? See, if you're going to rig the election, why are you calling us to come and vote? Why are you calling us to come and vote? If you're going to direct us to carry the ballot box, run away with it, shoot if you have to, and all those things. So why are you expecting people to come and vote so that they can die? No. So we must face this reality and not make it seem as if the voting somehow is going to miraculously change if we don't come out and insist that this is the way the voting should. For instance, why should we swear governors and senators and even the president in to government when we have not concluded on whether they won the elections or not? So even that alone shows very clearly that once the man is already there seated, it's very difficult to remove him. So they now look for ways where they can maintain him. And that's where the manipulation of the judiciary comes in.
Wow, thought-provoking indeed. Thought-provoking indeed. Thank you. I'm not even sure where to begin and start, but we will. I believe that there is, even if it's a flicker of light, we will take it. Dr. Tanya is about to catch a flight. Dr. Tanya, 1 minute. Do you have 1 minute to wrap up? She's about to. She's almost missing her flight. 1 minute, your parting shot. Unmute your mic, Doctor.
Thank you, sir. I I think we have most resource persons have all concluded that the responsibility starts with us. We have a great role to play, and let us start with us. It's not enough just to complain, but it's time to take action and be able to do something. And then, as I mentioned, regroup ourselves in communities, in nations that are speaking the same language, and you will be shocked. Our voice can go very, very far.
That's right.
Number two, we spoke about the judiciary. It's very, very important. Most resource persons also mentioned the same. If the court system doesn't work, it will not work. So it means every action we take to court. Remember, I mentioned earlier, you could take your government to court, but if the judges are corrupt, you won't be able to it won't work. And I would like to remind us again, let us look at our constitution. Most of us think the constitution is just for the government. We need to know what the provisions in our constitution are. We make examples of how the electoral body is elected. How are they appointed? Not elected, but how are they appointed? So if the electoral commission, all the members are appointed by a leader that you don't trust, it means your electoral process is going to be compromised. So we need to look into our constitution and see what the law is saying about voting, about elections, about corporate governance, about democracy and political governance, and see what we can change in our laws. Our legal framework is very important because other states cannot come and change your laws. Most of our states are sovereign, so we have to do it within. So let's get closer to our constitution, to our the laws that are passed by our parliament. They all concern us, so we need to be involved. And let's keep engaging. I'm very happy that we are here today speaking on such crucial issues that affect our lives. So let us not be passive, but we need to be active, and let's keep engaging. I have a lot of hope. I have a lot of hope. So we just have to keep pushing. We have to also be interested in where there are oppressions, where people cannot really speak up because they are oppressed. So what are the other means? What strategies can they use? I mentioned social media and other groups that can put pressure on government for these things to change. I am going to stop here. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tanya. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much. Is Dr. Anitra ready for a passing shot?
Right, Director. Thank you once again for this opportunity. And I will want to, at this point, thank our resource persons for, in my words, taking a lot of what I think, in that case, even preempting me or devoid me of my point, because I wouldn't have to re-echo what they have already articulated properly. In that case, I want to say that as it stands, which is that the citizens are the owners of these sovereign nations, so they must persevere. They have to insist in their quest, and in this case, in our quest for quality and good representation in government, and to get our government to do the needful. I agree with a couple of the speakers that even in this instance, where the problem is really coming from the judiciary, the law enforcement agencies, and our representatives, it's also clear that a lot of the agitations the masses have made are indeed making a lot of impact, positive impact, even though we are not there yet with respect to proportional result of the impact. In Nigeria, here we also what they popularly call the
Hello, doctor, are you there?
So I stand to align myself with the previous speakers who have spoken that we need to look through our laws to update them to present day realities, engage the social media and other platforms, even though the normal traditional media is difficult to speak through, engage the voices or the opportunities available to us to put required pressure on our government and other institutions to do the needful. And it has to be said that the churches, the mosque, those who worship, and someone who is coming from as a Christian, I know that a lot of us Christians also have this mundane thinking that politics is a fetish game, that Christians are not supposed to participate. A lot of enlightenment, a lot of education need to be done in our churches, among us, to see that we all hold this civic duty jointly to make the mark. Because indeed, it is our problem. We are the ones that has the solution, and we are the ones to push our solution through these same institutions that are against us for obvious reasons. The international influence is there, but it still come back to us. The fight is hard, but it is our fight, and we have to do the needful. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Am I being heard? We are totally out of time, but this conversation will continue. But first of all, on behalf of the entire board of Kivi Foundation, I want to express our sincere appreciation to all our distinguished resource persons. Mr. Honorable Speaker himself, Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara, CFRN, Anchor Briggs. Thank you, Madam, for your insightful contribution. Dr. Tanya and Tani and Dr. and moderator. Despite your very demanding schedule, you generously dedicated your time to participate in this event, sharing invaluable contributions and insights that have greatly enriched our dialogue. His Excellency Dr. Ablese sends his apologies. He is actually one of those involved in mediation efforts in the country we mentioned earlier that recently had an unrest. That's why he couldn't connect. We are equally grateful to our audience for joining us today. The widespread interest in this topic, was evident with people connecting from 27 countries. Is a testament of the relevance and significance of the topic discussed. Curing the trust deficit between the people and politicians demand concerted effort from all parties. Politicians must embody integrity and openness. the public should engage constructively. You know, a former speaker once said that the people get the leadership they deserve because it's their responsibility to give themselves leaders. So the people must take them, and that's what every of our resource people have highlighted today, that the responsibility is on the people. You can't be passive. You can determine how you are governed and who governs you. And of course, the media must report responsibly, and the judiciary must stand as the symbol of hope and not allow itself to be bought over. It's only by working together that we can rebuild the foundations of trust that have needed to be broken down, that underpins our effective democracy and ensure brighter and more inclusive future for all of us. Quick next steps we call it a day. In the coming days, a formal communique will be released. Am I still being heard? Yes, great.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. In the coming days, the formal communique will be released outlining solutions and recommendations formulated during this forum. This document will serve to summarize the key outcomes of our interactive sessions and, of course, provide clear direction for future actions. We encourage stakeholders and participants to review the communique upon its publication to remain informed of the decisions and strategies agreed upon today by our esteemed resource persons. In addition, in the coming days, outside the formal communique that will be out, we'll be hosting a global media party in the coming weeks. This event is aimed to further disseminate key outcomes and insights from our discussions, ensuring broader engagement and awareness among stakeholders and the public. Further details will be on this media party will be communicated in due course. So to ensure you remain up to date with important information and announcement from Kiviv Global, please add our email address info@kivivglobal.org to your contact. This will help prevent crucial updates from being missed or diverted to spam folder. Once again, I sincerely thank all our resource persons for taking our time, for being with us. Despite the numerous challenges, technology was not our friend today. It affected most of our speakers joining, but I think we put through. Thank you, Ward. Thank you, everyone that joined us. Until next time, we'll be here. There is hope for Africa. We cannot give up. There is hope for the world. Thank you, and good night, everyone.
Thank you.